world, and welcome to Development Heaven. I'm Vincent Marinelli.
And I'm Glenn Cagle.
It's a design podcast where the two of us talk about development hell and the changes all your favorite pieces of media go through. This week, Glenn, it's Sci-Fi, but first, I had a question for you.
What's your question, Vincent?
Hey, so can General Grievous have sex? I'm doing a Star Wars thing this week, and it's got me thinking.
It depends on how you define sex, Vincent.
How do you define sex?
Are we talking like physical intercourse, or are we just talking about like an emotional like exchange between two people who feel deeply for each other?
I don't think General Grievous can have an emotional connection with anybody else. So it's
You're right. Either way, the answer is no.
All right. Makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Well, it's sci-fi, right? So cyborgs are prevalent in all of sci-fi.
Yep. I've just been reading Battle Angel Alita. Pretty good.
Is that a manga?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
Sick. All right, cool.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember.
It's like one of the classic like cyberpunk 90s manga types.
Tight. Can Alita Battle Angel have sex? So here's the thing.
Yes,
here's my question.
That's
right?
like it's very sexualized.
Cool.
The writer's very horny.
Okay. It's just, I was thinking about, I would love at some point a list of all of the cyborgs in media and whether or not they can or
Just
can't
like
have sex.
A yes/no, like
Yes/no chart of all the
just
cyborgs.
a column. Yeah, okay.
Starting with the first cyborg, General Grievous.
No.
What would
Who do you think the first cyborg was?
General Grievous. What cybernetic enhancement you think you'd want if you could? Well, okay, let me rephrase.
Mm-hmm.
What cybernetic enhancement would be worth removing your penis for?
Oh,
answer me
okay,
this.
I see. Is it just like off my imagination, or do you have a list?
No. Yeah, it's an A, B, C, or D. No,
Okay.
what? Just in general.
Well, you see, the thing is, X-ray vision would be useless at this point.
Sure, because X-rays exist, or because Windows exist.
Because I don't have a penis.
Oh, yeah, that one too, I guess.
Super strength. Again, the main purpose of that is to get more ladies.
Swoon girls, sure.
I feel like, you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
If we're
What's the
real,
point of flying if you can't hold a
right
dame in your arms and let her touch the clouds or whatever? Sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess I could still do that. Without a penis.
So you're taking a different approach than I was thinking about this, just because my idea wasn't like which of these powers was for women. It's which of these powers is great enough I never have to think about sex again in my life. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So for me,
yeah.
it would be jumping really high.
Really?
Like,
how about this?
like robot legs for jumping, so I could be the best basketball player.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, that new series, the new I don't know if it's a comic book or whatever, but it's about the I think it's a Marvel comic book, and they're like kid superheroes, and they're like all supposed to be like Gen Z like types.
Like the kid that inhaled
inhaled
gas.
Internet gas, and now he's
Yeah.
like connected to the internet. That's what I'm thinking. Like seamless connection to the internet. Like I want to know something and I just know it. I want to see something and I can just see it. Except it's like wrong half the time because it's just like the top result on Google.
So you would give up your penis for a shitty superpower?
Well, one man's trash is another man's treasure, Vincent.
I'll take it. Glenn, who's going first this week?
Well, here's the thing. We talked about true randomness a while back, and the hunt for true randomness kind of has found the holy grail in radioactive decay, because in the way certain particles decay, there seems to be absolutely no input factors. Like, even if you knew the position of every atom in the universe right now, the exact position, rotation, velocity, everything of every single atom in the whole universe right now, you could still not predict the way that certain particles decay.
So, Glenn, are you telling me that this here is the culmination of your arc thus far in the series?
It is, yeah.
You've found true random?
I found true random. So I looked around on the internet to try and find, like, sometimes there's I've heard of services where you can query for a number and it'll send it off to some lab where they're constantly doing these experiments and recording the results, and it'll just like give you the next result, and it's like a random number. And I couldn't find any of those. Like, I definitely know they exist. Like, I've seen people use them before. I couldn't find one.
So what you're asking for the audience is to send us a link,
please,
through our Gmail.
Send us a radioactive, send us a decaying particle, and a Geiger counter. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So because of that, there's pretty much also no way, even if you knew every position of every atom in the universe, to predict what card I'm gonna draw next. So.
So it's like the same thing.
It's basically the same thing.
Okay.
I was just thinking that I'm gonna draw a card, and then you're gonna draw a card, and whenever we get a card that's that has already been drawn, then that person will go first. So first card, my card, that's a 5. Vincent just got a 5, so Vincent, you're going first.
Fantastic. All right, cool.
Wow, that was what are the odds? What are the odds?
You
Calculate it and send it to us at developmentheaven@gmail.com.
Clean. Very clean.
So Vince, this is your third time up first. No, fourth time up first in 5 episodes. How does that feel?
It feels good. It feels good. It's nice. I've been working hard my whole life. I've been grinding. I've been working hard, and to be able to receive this kind of recognition, it's like dreams really do come true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I get it.
You'll have your day someday, Glenn. According to the laws of random numbers, it's likely that, laws of nature and entropy, you'll most likely go a couple times in a row at some point too. So don't let that get you down.
Yeah. I'll try.
So, Glenn, the two of us, obviously big Star Wars fans. Mm-hmm. Anybody would know this by the fact that we have taken digs at the sequels. So we are a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, Die Hard.
Force to be reckoned with. Nice.
So this week I wanted to talk about a handful of... This week I have a bit of a double feature for you, Glenn. I got 2 Star Wars projects that were canceled, will never come out, that are pretty inexorably linked. So I will hit them beat by beat. So today I'm talking about the television series Star Wars Underworld and the video game Star Wars 1313.
Okay. What is 1313 all about? What does that mean?
1313, I'll get into it a little bit more later, but 1313 is a location in the Star Wars universe. It's on Coruscant. Like the elites on Coruscant live on the planet's surface. The people with the money, and then the people that... It's like society, Glenn. I don't know if you know about society. There's like levels. Yeah. The
gotta
people
do everything yourself.
Don't have money live underground, and so 1313
isn't it on I always thought of it on Coruscant as like the people who don't have money live on the ground, and then everyone else just lives on the in the towers, in the sky.
Well, not quite. The poor people live literally inside of the earth in a big tunnel.
It's like a mine. They have like a mining industry down there, don't they?
Basically, it's something. But the floor itself, 1313, is real subtle. By the way, George Lucas, you did just the unlucky number twice. Real subtle. We saw right through you.
Wait, really?
Big bastard.
I didn't get that.
1313 is where like all the crimes happen. It's the seedy underbelly. Anyway,
the dark side of Coruscant. We don't hear about that a lot.
No, and this is where it was. So anyway, I'll get into it. So even before the release of the original Star Wars, there were rumors that George Lucas was going to make a TV series, just like reusing props or whatever. It was going to be a TV series based on the film. Okay. This never happened. There were a couple of...
Wait. When, what time period are we looking at here?
Like 76. Like
76.
Even before the original film came out.
Yeah, because Star Wars A New Hope, then called Star Wars, came out in 77, so...
Yeah, so rumors of this go way back. George Lucas, he was a filmmaker even before the release of Star Wars. He had a couple of movies before that. Yeah. Anyway, Star Wars did get like a handful of television treatments. Like there was those Ewok telemovies and like the Christmas special, right? And then he even went on to work on. He was somewhat involved with the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, but this specific series that was rumored never came to be.
Okay.
It wasn't until after the release of the prequels, like 2005-ish, that Lucas announced these Star Wars TV shows. There's going to be one animated TV show and one live action.
Right,
the animated
Clone
show
Wars.
ended up being the Clone Wars, exactly, and people liked
okay.
it a lot. And so I think it was the 2005 Star Wars Celebration when Lucas announced this, he said, the animated one is going to be first, and then we'll do this live action TV show.
Okay.
It's going to be called Underworld, and it's going to be set in the period between the prequels and the original trilogy, and it's going to talk about the...
Oh, no. That's during Luke's time on Tatooine, where he's growing up, right?
Right, yeah. It's yeah, exactly. So just a little bit of backstory on like why this happened. From what I've gathered, like the old canon, what people call legends now, like the old comics and books and
everything
video
that
games
Disney disowned. Yes,
exactly. George Lucas had some specifications on what content could be covered in this extended canon and what couldn't be. He always said, don't touch the Clone Wars because that's something that he wanted to deal with. But he would always encourage people to work on, make content based on the seedy underbelly of the Star Wars universe. Because, it's interesting, but for whatever reason, he never really wanted to touch it. He wanted...
I guess... Because they're always talking about like space pirates and like other people
bounty
like Han
hunters,
Solo,
smugglers, totally.
So, but the only one we ever see is Han Solo, and he's got a nice redemption arc when Luke says she's rich.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and the prequel or like the original trilogy it's a very concentrated story. There's not a lot of... It's very focused on like the main character, and it doesn't really deviate that much, even for world building. A lot of the world building really did come from the prequel movies, which is why, the Clone Wars exists and all that.
Right.
So the planned setting of Star Wars Underworld was underneath the surface of Coruscant, which, 1,313 floors down is called 1313. And it would later get fleshed out in novels and in the Clone Wars because the series Star Wars Underworld never came out. They apparently had like 100 hours of story written and some of it filmed. Yeah, the leaked earlier this year was some test footage of Star Wars Star Wars Underworld, and it looked good. I mean,
test footage usually doesn't look good.
Well, for like a series from 2010,
I guess.
What they did is, like in The Mandalorian, how they don't use green screen, they use like a big screen behind them.
I didn't know that.
Ooh,
what color is the screen behind them?
It's okay. I'll tell you about this later. But basically, they have these huge, big LED, like just a room of LED speakers or LED
no, you got
TVs. And what they do is they, take footage, take pictures, and then edit them to look like Star Wars, and then just display those behind them.
What?
Yeah, and it looks seamless.
So that's like the way they used to do backdrops, was a giant painting. A giant painting.
Yeah.
So I guess they're kind of hearkening back to that with like a practical background.
Mm-hmm. And it's if you can buy the giant screens, that's the only expense because everything else is really cheap and easy. Anyway, so Star Wars.
How am I gonna make a Harry Potter invisibility cloak with no green screen?
You're right. Star Wars Underworld was one of the earlier versions of, because it's like ILM still working on all this stuff, and so they had devised, we use this sort of rear projecting with big TVs and all that. So anyway,
that's cool. They're always
a
like
big part of and something that I'm learning about Star Wars Underworld is that a lot of the things that were going to be used for this just were repurposed for other things. It was delayed indefinitely, and it sounds like it's mainly because of budget constraints, and then when the Disney buyout happened, it was just completely canned.
Yeah.
However, some of the ideas from Star Wars Underworld were repurposed for various other Star Wars projects. There were episodes about the retrieval of the Death Star plans, and that became Rogue One: A Star Wars Story.
Oh, really?
Or there was an episode about how Han, Chewie, and Lando met, and then that became Solo, a Star Wars story. Oh, one other thing. The character Saw Gerrera was going to be one of the main characters in Underworld, but to the point that they even introduced him in the Clone Wars.
Oh, really?
The first time we see Saw Gerrera, he's like a character during the Clone Wars, and then that was going to lead into Underworld. But then that became, he became a character in Rogue One,
Right.
and he shows up in Rebels. He's all around now.
So he's kind of like a bone that they threw to the fans of the Clone Wars when they came to see Rogue One.
Basically, yeah. There was one other piece of media that was going to be associated with Star Wars Underworld, which was a tie-in video game. But when the series was delayed, it became its own separate entity, which was known as Star Wars 1313.
Oh, okay.
Star Wars 1313 was first formally announced at E3 2012, and it was announced alongside that trailer that you can see on YouTube.
Okay.
If you haven't seen it, look it up. Glenn, if you want to describe any of the trailer, what it looked like.
It looked really good. Like the motion capture and the models, I thought were like when I was just scrubbing through it, the like small image, I thought that was just like live action. But watching the video, it's like, wow, that's actually a video game, and could have fooled me.
Yeah, I mean, people were really excited for this game just because the gameplay looked really good. The gameplay itself, obviously, very inspired by the Uncharted games with the motion capture, action platformer, cover-based shooter. It's all very similar. Originally, apparently, so this is sort of a fun fact. It was going to be when they were making it as a tie-in to Underground. It was going to be like a Grand Theft Auto style game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but they
like a free roaming like
what's the word?
Action shooter kind of game.
Yeah, like open world. You steal Star Wars hovercrafts or whatever. But apparently they had hardware challenges, so they
really
went with they ended up going with the Uncharted thing.
That makes sense.
But
and it worked, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. It absolutely did. Again, game looks fantastic.
But it never came out.
Right. So, besides the hardware challenges, the other primary challenge that the LucasArts team faced during production was George Lucas himself. So, during the production of 1313, the team had already, settled on this protagonist, like a unnamed bounty hunter. They got him fully motion captured, voice acted, and had a majority of the script put together. And then they started working on the demo for E3.
Okay.
Then, about 2 months before the event, George Lucas popped into the LucasArts boardrooms and mandated that the game instead focus on Boba Fett instead of that guy.
Why?
Yeah, so instead of the story and character that they've already scripted and motion captured and voice acted, it should be Boba Fett.
I'm going to give
that's
that
what George wants.
2 thumbs down.
Well, you can't tell George no.
That's true. You really can't.
And so that was the thing. George was like, nope, if we're making this, it has to be Boba Fett. And so here the team is 2 months before E3. They already have, the trailer put together. So they released this trailer and all the while are working on how to fix the story structure to be a Boba Fett game now.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
This obviously threw a huge wrench in the development of the project, but I mean, it wasn't too long after all this that Star Wars was purchased by Disney, and the whole thing was canceled anyway. So here is the official gameplay that we know would have been covered in this new version of the game. I just want to run it past you real fast.
Okay.
This is from the Star Wars Wikipedia,
right,
where they say, the player would have taken on the role of an unidentified bounty hunter who would soon be killed by a mysterious figure, subsequently revealed to be Boba Fett. You would then play as Boba Fett for the rest of the game.
That's kind of weird. I would like to have seen that. I don't know. I feel like it could have worked, but it's definitely creative.
When I had first read this treatment, I was just confused. It was before I knew about the backstory of George Lucas said it would have to be a Boba Fett game. So if I were to be playing a game for the first, quarter or so, I'm playing as this one fully realized character, only for him to be killed and then replaced. I mean, that'd be a weird game, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's bold.
It's bold. It's certainly bold. That was actually a big problem with the. Well, it's not the main problem, but it is a big problem that plagued the development of both of these projects, was that Lucasfilms wasn't sure they were willing to take a risk on this more adult, kind of mature Star Wars adventure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, but Glenn, I want to do something fun with you. Hold on.
All right, let's do something fun.
Let's do something fun, right? Just briefly, I wanted to introduce a new segment that I thought we could return to every once in a while. So if you'll, take my hand, I'll set the scene. We're walking on the beach, right?
Oh,
and real romantic, but suddenly there's some drums, the sound of drum beats on this beach, and we come across something buried in the sand. What is that, Glenn? It's a old MS-DOS computer.
What?
And it's got the source code for Star Wars 1313.
What? Wow, check that out.
So here's what we're going to do. You are a game maker. Wait, how do I say that? You're a game designer?
Game designer.
Developer, that's it.
Either way.
You design games. We have in front of us the code that was going to be used for Star Wars 1313 before the whole thing got scrapped.
Is it in C?
It is.
Okay.
Yes. How do we make this a game? What do we do to it?
Oh, jeez. Do we have any assets?
We have all the assets.
We have all the assets?
We have all the art. We have everything. It's all on this MS-DOS computer.
Are you asking me what I would change about it?
Yeah, let's just, you and me, brainstorm.
Okay.
How do we make this a good game? Because it'll never come out.
Sure.
That's the thing about this game. It will never be released, so all we can do is...
Everything we say is safe.
Exactly. I do kind of think that my first change would be, don't make it a Boba Fett game, or make it a Boba Fett game the entire time.
Yeah, I guess. I really latched onto the Mandalorian character, but I don't know if I would have said that before. Anyway, that being said, I think that making it just either a nameless Mandalorian or just a Mandalorian we haven't met yet and giving him a name would be kind of cool. Then we get more creative liberty with how we design the character.
Yeah. Star Wars lore, and obviously this is 10 years ago, but Star Wars fans are they like Boba Fett a lot, despite the fact that he's never really done too much. Yeah.
That was the reason Jango Fett got such a big thing in the prequels, right? It was because George Lucas killed off Boba Fett too fast and didn't realize
before he could do anything cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's good for merch, I'm sure. I bet there were a lot of
helmets, jetpacks.
Helmets sold. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's a good change. Was this another cover-based shooter or? Yeah,
cover-based shooter like Uncharted or Gears of War. That kind of.
I don't really play a lot of AA shooter games but so I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot of prowess for designing those.
I've told you I've been playing the Uncharted games.
And
I think they're really fun. The gameplay isn't... I'm not super into cover-based shooters, personally.
Okay, so would you change that?
I don't think I would change it just because I still really enjoy Uncharted for the story and for the characters, and I think the world is really fun. So
and I think the way that we see Mandalorians portrayed in the movies kind of lends to a cover-based shooter AA type.
Yeah, I mean, you say that. I think most of the shooting in Star Wars is cover-based, so yeah, I mean, it works.
Then again, now that I think about it, that's definitely stormtroopers and the rebellion. But when I think about the Mandalorians, I think about them flying around. So maybe not cover based, but maybe mobility based, a mobility based shooter. I definitely have more experience playing those.
Are there a lot of? I'm curious, genuinely. Are there a lot of third person mobility based shooters? I feel like that would be kind of difficult.
You think? Is it Overwatch is in third person, or is it? I don't know, but it's mobility based, and same with I don't know, Star Wars Battlefront. I get the feeling that it's mobility based because you've got that dodge roll.
Mm-hmm.
I don't play it, but my brother does. But then again, I do see a lot of people taking cover, so I think that one, because it's competitive, people just kind of play how they feel is right, and the game lends to that. It allows you to play how you want to. I don't know. I think being able to like fly around and go up to platforms, if that was like a major mechanic, I think that's really cool. That's something that gets me going.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think,
or maybe
you're
you're taking cover, but to like fly, but to get to the next cover, it's not always just a matter of running. It's like maybe you have to fly up to a platform or jump down or something like that.
That does sound cool. I think the gameplay shown in that demo for E3 was a lot more focused on.
It looked like they were sitting still.
Yeah, I mean, it was Uncharted style, where it's like basically platforming. You know, you're pressing X to jump up to the next ledge as you're climbing up a spaceship.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Definitely incorporating like the rockets and the grappling hook. Didn't he have a grappling hook?
He did, yeah.
Yeah,
well, I think it was.
So maybe
it was
having
for
like
people.
like incorporating that where you can like swing from platform to platform might be kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that. I think having a more mobile bounty hunter, Mandalorian type character would be a very fun protagonist to play as in a video game.
And I don't think it should be a puzzler, but maybe like when I think bounty hunter, like setting traps, like like you're to get around certain enemies. Sometimes it's not always shooting. Sometimes you're placing a mine and then like getting their attention so they come and like blow themselves up or like fall off of something. I don't know.
And you know what else would be cool is if you had like a choice of the different missions you can choose based on the different bounties and whatnot.
Because he's a bounty, he's a
bounty hunter,
free roaming. He's his own man, and let the player make the character what they want and what they want to see in that character. You know what I mean?
Well, Glenn, we did it. We fixed Star Wars 1313.
We did, dude. We did it. A real achievement. All right, get programming. Let's go.
Let's move it, people.
Vincent, how do you feel about heroism and like heroes in general? Do you have like something to say on that?
I am a firm believer in the story circle.
Elaborate on that for me a little bit.
The hero's journey.
Okay.
Most stories.
So everyone. So you think
Star
heroes
Wars
like generally start from a place of either mundanity or like or maybe even like a scoundrel like Han Solo? Is that? I mean, that's what I think of when I think of the hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the. So you're all about like people changing, people growing and changing to become a hero.
I am. Yeah.
I like that.
If that's what we want to take away from this, I definitely.
I like that a lot. Cool.
Well, like I said, no fun facts this week, so that's the end of my segment.
All right. So I guess I'll jump right into my thing.
Let's do it.
But before we do that, Vincent, do you have a favorite food? I know you like to cook. You make. I remember you made a lot of frittatas, but I think you said that was only because you didn't have the tools to make anything else.
It was for convenience. Yeah, that was when my only pan was a cast iron skillet.
Yeah.
It's favorite food. I've thought about this a lot.
Okay.
I really like sushi.
Okay.
I think sushi is probably my favorite food.
Nice. Okay.
What's your does that answer your question? What's your favorite food?
I'm big into rice. I really like paella. That can either be expensive or hard to get sometimes. So I also really like jambalaya. Or just dirty rice. I like a lot of Cajun food. I like a lot of Cajun food.
You do, yeah.
Not that has anything to do with what I'm going to talk about today. I'm here to tell you about everyone's favorite canceled sci-fi TV show, Firefly.
Okay.
So
all right. Interesting.
I think it's fitting that you talked about Star Wars because that's kind of the conclusion that I want to draw here. I guess I'll kind of lead with it and then I'll backtrack.
All right.
Firefly, as many people know, some people consider it to have been martyred because
I have heard that. Yeah.
It was just kind of killed by Fox, the TV network, and many people attribute its success, its subsequent success, to that cancellation. And I think it's kind of like in contrast to Star Wars. Star Wars media is oversaturated in like everything we see. So
agreed. At least nowadays.
And nowadays, because it's oversaturated, I think any new Star Wars material will just divide fans. Like there's nothing that was going to please everybody. And we see that in the sequels. There's just a mess because they're trying to keep people happy and there's just no way to do it. And on the other side of that, Firefly is very undersaturated. Nobody got as much Firefly as they wanted. and
Yeah.
and
They just got a
so
taste.
and so any new Firefly material, fans just instantly jump on that. Like where they're hungry for it. It doesn't matter if it's like, not exactly what they wanted or not how they envisioned things going. They just like
Okay.
anything from the Firefly universe is just like people, but like mainly what I was talking about was like the cult following. So people like dress up to go to see the like screenings and all that.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I know
so
what
people
you
are
mean
like
then.
all about it.
Yeah. All right. So hit
There's
me
like a
with your
Firefly
facts
board
about
game.
Serendipity.
Firefly, I don't. Oh, you know what? No, there is. There's a Serenity RPG. There's a video
Okay.
game. There's some comics and the movie Serenity. And I'm going to tell you about the movie Serenity for a bit. So if you don't know, it's a sequel to the TV show Firefly, which aired on Fox in 2002. To very low, very poor. It was not successful when it came on TV. But then again, it was in the first season, and the TV station aired them out of order. We'll talk more on that
Really?
later. Yeah, totally. They screwed him over. I'll talk more on that later. But years later, in 2008, the movie Serenity came out. And let me tell you this. I don't know of any other movie where this happened, but while the movie was in development, they screened unfinished portions of the movie, and people paid to see it.
Really? Like in movie theaters?
In movie theaters, people paid to fans, not like critics or anything. Fans bought tickets, scalped tickets for over $100, and they always sold out.
So this is the thing I hear about.
They came dressed up. It's like a whole cult thing.
Yeah, this is the thing I hear about Firefly more often than anything else. The fact that it seems like it would be really successful if people just gave it a chance.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
People have, like I said, people bought tickets for over $100. These theaters sold out to see unfinished cuts of the movie. I guess it was the same people every time, because when the movie actually released, it had very middling results.
Oh, okay.
But the
It's not like they were going for mass appeal. It was a movie about a TV show that nobody watched.
Right. And the reason that the TV show gets so much significance now is because, well, like I said, it was killed prematurely. They recorded and edited like 14 episodes, but only 11 of them aired. Yeah. It was kind of like a no-brainer for Fox when they first picked it up, because it was like, it's super cheap. Like the show had like no budget.
Right.
There's a little bit of CGI, but other than that, like, and there's like a few location shots that were in like the LA area, the Southern California area, but most of the shots are just on set in the Universal like lot, like just, or they were just there. That's sort of one of the things I want to talk about, is how like this show, even though it's a sci-fi western, it's not really sci-fi. I mean, it takes place in space.
Not like how you'd expect. Yeah.
It's not. It takes place in space, but the show isn't about anything that happens in this futuristic universe. It's about the interactions between people. It's a show about people and their relationships with each other. And I've heard it said that that's one of the things that made. I've never seen. I've never watched Game of Thrones, but one of the things that I've heard about it that made it so good was that it wasn't about fantasy. I mean, it was a fantasy TV show, but it wasn't about the fantasy aspects of the universe. It was about the people and their interactions with each other.
Character driven.
Yeah. So that's another thing that Fox, another thing that ruined this is that Fox, they sort of marketed this as a action comedy. And so anybody who came looking for an action comedy got like a gritty, character-driven, morally gray kind of like introspective, existential like thing. And it's like not at all what they were looking for. And anyone who does like that kind of thing wasn't really keen on watching Fox's new quirky action comedy.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's partially responsible for its low numbers. Also, it was in like Fox has this like death slot, like I think it's like 8:00 on Fridays. Every show they put there, they just cancel. Like, I don't know. There's got to be some conspiracy there, because
they should probably delete that hour.
Yeah, right. It's like what? But they've canceled over 30 Friday night shows. More than any
that's
other.
That's got to be a record.
It is more than any other station. It's just ridiculous.
Cool.
Oh, jeez. Okay, cool. But yeah, that's one of the things that I like about the show is that it's about humans. It's about their relationships with each other, and there aren't any aliens. So one of the things that's relatable about this is it's still set in a universe where we can ask the question, "Are we alone?" and wonder and be in awe of the universe. Well, here, Joss Whedon, the director and the producer, the writer, everything, the creator of the show,
Mr. Firefly.
Mr. Firefly himself, and Mr. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Mr.
The
Avengers Battle of New York. He's done a lot of things. He when he was originally pitching the idea, he said he wanted to make a show about 9 people who look into the blackness of space and see 9 different things. So,
whoa.
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of cool.
Damn.
Joss also wanted to have he said that the future, or like in his mind, the future will have the same political, moral, and ethical problems that we have today. And so he wanted that to kind of translate over, and like I've been talking about.
That's kind of dour.
Yeah. He said that in the future we're going to have more technology, but like everything else is going to be the same.
But we'll still be sad.
Yeah. That was actually one of the things that Fox didn't like about the show. Fox was giving him like a super hard time about the first episode. They made him rewrite the whole thing in like a weekend. So it was like he gave them the episode on Friday, and then by Monday he had to like rewrite it. One of the things they didn't like about it was that they thought it was too dark. They thought that the main character, Mal, was too... They needed to write him more jolly, whatever that means. They thought he was too dour. Yeah, which kind of goes against the whole thing that he was, like, the whole premise of the show.
Right, they wanted Captain Kirk.
Yeah, pretty much. I think in the original, like, script for the first episode, he discharged 2 characters from an airlock, killing them.
Whoa. Okay.
And Fox didn't like that. They didn't think people could get behind like a murderer. So I guess that makes sense. But they didn't. They said that they didn't like that the show was about nobodies who get squished by. These are their words. They said they didn't like that the show was about nobodies who get squished by policy. They said they instead wanted it to be about like policy makers, which to me doesn't make any sense at all. But
no, that sounds like they're totally up their ass.
Yeah, I know. So I looked into it. I did a little bit of research in that regard because that was confusing to me, and it turns out that this was right after the X-Files had just ended. They just ended the X-Files, so they were looking for something to fill that kind of sci-fi existential void. They wanted to keep the sci-fi fans that were watching Fox still watching Fox, so they were going to throw them another sci-fi thing that they could sink their teeth into. I don't watch the X-Files, so I don't really know anything about it. Another kind of weird thing is that the Whedon, the director, wanted it to like feel kind of like a documentary style. So all of the camera work is done handheld, which is kind of weird. But yeah, so like The
Office, like mockumentary.
No, not like that. Not like that.
Okay.
I just rough around the edges, I guess is the word.
Oh, so sort of shaky cam.
Yeah, shaky cam.
Okay.
And I think
Right.
like the cameramen are like crawling around behind the characters when they're like walking around inside the ship and all that. So it's
nice.
Yeah. They're like really there. And like that's what he told the cameraman and the whole crew. He said you are there. Like that was what he wanted them to have in mind while they're filming it. So a lot of the shots are like intentionally misframed or out of focus, which when I first watched it was really jarring, but it comes to be charming after you watch the first couple episodes. And all of that adds to this like documentary found footage type kind of thing. I guess all of that was, like I said, direct contrast with with Star Trek, in which the characters are kind of larger than life. The characters in I don't know, like Captain Kirk and Picard and all of them are like perfect. Like they can do no wrong.
That's true. I mean, the Star Trek, the entire universe is pretty immaculate. That's
right. Yeah, space
no
communism.
denying that.
Yeah, it's nice. I know this is really funny. Little fun fact: David Boyd, the director of photography, he was super on board with Whedon's idea, and so they bought like really expensive lenses for him to use, and he sent them back and bought cheaper ones because he wanted lens flare.
Right.
Yeah. He wanted it to like he said that it was like supposed to harken back to the dramas of the 1970s, like 1970s TV westerns and films like that have a lot of lens flare.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Which I think works really well considering it is a space western.
Sure.
Hey, Vincent. Do you have a biggest fear?
Woof. I don't know. I used to have a thing about dark windows.
Really?
Do I need to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah. What about the dark windows kind of like unsettled you?
Well, I haven't thought about it since I was in like.
By the way,
middle
I get
school.
this. It's like I can relate, but
Okay. It was a thing where I, at one point, got really into like watching scary videos on YouTube or whatever. And there was this one that really stuck with me where they're like some people at an abandoned house and they come across, they're like looking at the windows, and then there's one you can't see anything into, and then there's like a skeleton face. And that's all it took for me. And so for a while.
And they got you.
Yeah. It got me.
So it's kind of like the violence that could come out of like a not knowing what's there, or is it more about like not being in control? Like not like you're not in control of the situation if the like.
Those are two interesting distinctions.
We're getting a little. We're getting real deep here, Vincent.
The violence. I'll say the violence part.
Okay. Nice. All right, back to Firefly.
You're being suspicious.
Am I being suspicious?
You're being a little suspicious.
You got
know
me.
what I'm gonna do?
You're gonna call me out?
I'm gonna call you.
Okay. So this is, for those of you who don't know, an episode or a segment we like to call BuzzFeed Buds Freed, in which
it's back.
It's back.
Triumphant return.
Back and ready for more. Where we give a BuzzFeed quiz to the other person, hopefully without them knowing.
We're both really good at this.
Yeah, I managed to get, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4,
really
5. 6. I got 6. Holy cow.
Really?
Yeah.
I honestly only caught 2 of those.
Okay. I'm just going to run through okay, this is so bad. I looked for like which Firefly character quizzes are you? Like I looked for those. I looked so hard. This is like the only one. All right, so Vincent, pick your enemy. We've got
man.
I'll just man. Okay. 4 of these 6 are men.
Okay.
I'll just run through them. How about that?
Yeah.
There's like the big old hegemon alliance type. There's the crazy gold digger bitch. There's the king of the mud planet.
I think it's probably Mud King.
Mud King's your enemy? Nice.
Yeah, I think it's Mud King.
How do you defeat that enemy?
Wits. Battle of wits.
Outsmart them? Okay.
Yeah.
Who's your onboard romance? You might want to...
Alan Tudyk.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that
Easy.
one coming. Bruh. You got Captain Malcolm Reynolds, so good job.
Cool.
Yeah, you got Nathan Fillion's character. You're a natural leader who toes the line between hero and villain. You're the backbone of your close circle of friends, but those outside your inner circle fear you, and with good reason.
Yeah, that's just about vague enough to be me.
Yeah, right.
But I'll tell you what, Glenn, it's nice to hear you finally say it.
You want to know who I got?
Yeah,
I got Tudyk. I got Wash.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So look at us, a couple of buds. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk character designs, because these I think are really cool. You don't really hear about that in like live action very much.
Yeah.
It's called because it's called costuming in live action.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's fun to talk about. So the mechanic character Kaylee, apparently her design was a kind of mosh of like the Asian youth, because they have this whole like the alliance is like a Borg of like the United States and Chinese. Like they were the only surviving superpowers, so they like mashed to form the alliance.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's like all this Asian influence in a lot of sort of background imagery. So Kaylee was inspired sort of this mash of like Asian youth plus Rosie the Riveter plus like Chinese communist propaganda. She's like, so she's always got like the trousers, like loose trousers and like the tank top. And she's always covered in grease and like, you know, her hair tied back and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean.
Yeah. River and Simon were meant to like contrast each other in this kind of yin yang thing. They're like brother and sister. So Simon is like the yin and River is like the yang, which I think is kind of cool. That I think that played pretty well, like sort of plot wise. when they this is kind of funny when they were first like designing the bad guys, they were like, think Nazi because they're fighting
like Star Wars.
Yeah, like just like Star Wars.
Yeah.
They were thinking this about like this big bad hegemon as like the enemy. So of course, where do you go but Nazi? And the original designs were too Nazi. They were just straight up Nazi uniforms. So
Oh, great.
so nix that one. Later, they decided to just they literally just rented the costumes from Starship Troopers. So there you go. I guess that worked. All right. Finally, in true development heaven fashion, we got to talk about the unproduced episodes, the lost levels, if you will.
Sure. I like that.
I think a lot of these lost levels were generally more like grittier than some of the other episodes.
Okay. Does that mean like the Fox chose the episodes that they thought would be lighter?
No, I think they did, but eventually all 14 of the recorded episodes were released. So I think that these were ideas that they had for later seasons that hadn't been written yet.
Sure.
Yeah, just things that were clinking around inside their heads. Alan Tudyk had an idea for an episode in which they go to like a planet where it's like a day side and a night side because of the way it rotates, how space works. How like our moon,
like our planet?
What? No.
Oh, always.
Yeah,
like
yeah. Sorry, I guess that wasn't clear. Yeah, like the moon has a light side and a dark side.
Yeah.
Just like the Force.
Whoa.
So they went to this night side of the planet, and there was like a dog fighting ring going on, and so they had to like go and catch some of these wild dogs to use in the dog fighting ring. And the sort of comic relief character Jane Cobb spills like the pheromone they were using, and they get attacked by the dogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a classic Looney Tunes bit.
I guess. Yeah, I don't really know. And then the character River, who is like supposed to get a lot more development, and she's like introduced as like she's like 11 basically.
Oh.
But think like the first episode of Stranger Things where she like doesn't talk, and that's River the whole time because she was meant to have more later.
But they just never
never did it because the show was canceled.
Well, that is sad.
Yeah. She has like mind power abilities, and she used those to like domesticate the dogs, making them useless for dog fighting. So kind of like a happy ending, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure that would have been more fleshed out had they actually gone through with it.
Right.
Adam Baldwin, the guy who played Jane Cobb, like I said, the comic relief character, eventually he wanted to make the actor wanted to have an episode where Jane gets his own ship. And I was like, oh, okay, so this actor just wants to be the star of his own show. But
Backdoor pilot.
Apparently what he wanted was he was like, oh, it'd be cool if Jane got his own ship. There was like a multi-episode arc where he's like trying to pilot or command his own ship, and then he has to compete with Mal for a job or something. And he wanted Jane, his own character, to fail miserably and be humbled by the experience and have to come like hanging his head, crawling back to Mal. And then from then on, respect him as a captain more, which I think would have been really cool because like one of the main dynamics between those two characters is that, or between Jane and the whole entire crew, is that he is only there for the money. Like he's constantly saying like, if if they pay me better, I'm gonna go join their side.
Right.
So yeah, I think that would have been a really cool like sort of character development for him. Like I said, a lot of them were a lot more morally gray than some of the other ones, and a good example of that is in one episode that they had planned, they were going to have Serenity, the ship, land on a dying planet, like an ice planet. Okay. And all of the inhabitants there are like, they're struggling to get by because their planet's falling apart, and they beg the crew to take them with them off the planet. And they do the math in their head, or they do the calculations and find out we don't have enough air or food to get all of the citizens of this planet somewhere else.
Sure.
And they're like, if we took them, we'd be gambling that we're going to find another ship on the way to resupply us. Either that, and it's that or we die, right? So they've kind of got this. They decide to put it to a vote for the crew, and and I don't really know what they planned to transpire here, but something I think they were gonna have like the citizens try to like hijack the ship or something like that. Anyway, Malcolm eventually locks himself inside the cockpit with all the crew on board and none of the citizens, revs up the engines and flies them away. And so no matter what they voted on, he took the decision and therefore the guilt of killing this entire planet onto himself.
Huh.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's you don't walk away from that episode enjoying the show quite as much.
I think it would have been cool to see, though. I mean, I like episodes that have or TV and movies that have that kind of like, wow, I don't know. Well, they work.
I agree. It's that like it's the Office factor where they had to change the show after season 1 to make the endings of episodes.
Yeah.
This is the thing in TV where you want to have the endings of the episodes be at least satisfying, or
Oh well, here, let me finish.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot to mention. On the way, as they were leaving, they don't find another ship before they get to their destination. So it's like,
right.
if we had taken them, we all would have died.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like he is directly responsible for the deaths of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's heavy. It's heavy stuff.
Yeah. So like I said, a lot of the other ones are meant to be like that gritty, like I don't know, real Alan Moore type writing.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, time for some fun facts. You know how I like it. Man, nice rebound from that one. One thing I want to point out is how much of an online following this has. As soon as it like got canceled, like it had a massive online following in 2002. Like this is before any like big social media was right. So
it's
salient.
like early discussion forums.
Right. Yeah. And there's so many like fan sites and fan blogs. The fans for this thing are nuts. Like I said, I already told you how they paid hundreds of dollars for tickets to unfinished movies. They would I think they would also like camp out in the how people camp out at sporting events hoping to buy like tickets from people like, oh, I gotta go do something else, and they sell their ticket to somebody like right outside the stadium room. Apparently people were expecting that at the movie, so people would like camp out and in the lobbies of the theaters that were showing it,
so they could maybe get a chance of getting in.
Dude,
that's wild.
Freaking nuts. Let's see. What are some other wild things they did? They raised $14,000 in donations to purchase a Firefly DVD set that comes with the movie and Serenity, the movie Serenity and the show Firefly, and they wanted to put it on board 250 U.S. naval ships by April 2004 for recreational viewing by the crew.
Weird.
And they did.
And it worked.
And they did it. Totally. Straight up.
Huh.
I guess.
It's sort of a weird association.
I guess. My dad is a real Star Wars fan, and a lot of people don't think about that when they meet him. They're like I remember Matthew was like totally taken aback when he heard that my dad saw Star Wars A New Hope when it was just Star Wars 3 times in theater.
Right.
But he's such I think to him originally it was kind of like a Top Gun kind of thing. Like it was a show about like hotshot pilots. Which A New Hope is. I don't think there's any denying that. So I think that's I don't think there's such a stretch between a Navy seaman and a somebody who's into Firefly. I don't know.
Sure.
Then again, people in the military come from all walks of life. It's not just one type of person. But anyway, some more fun facts about the fans. Sort of in the same vein, NASA astronaut Steve Swanson took the DVD set with him, that same DVD set with the movie and the show. Took him on the space shuttle in 2007, so it's currently in the ISP. If you ever want to watch it in space, you can do that.
In case I'm ever up there.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's also like a fan-made sequel to Serenity. It follows a different crew, but they've got all the same types. Like they've got the captain, the pilot, the comic relief, the what's he called, the mechanic. All the different. They've got all the same archetypes, but it's like different characters. I watched the trailer for it. I mean, it looked okay for a fan film. I wouldn't have gone to see it, but I mean, it still looks all right.
Was it officially released?
Yeah. So it wasn't in like theaters or anything, but it was officially released. It made $115,000. So, really not bad at all. And it all went to charity, which is
cool.
Nuts. I don't know. It seems like a lot of people spent a lot of time on this. I don't have time to make a feature-length film in my free time and then donate that money to charity. But they did, and the movie actually got its blessing from Joss Whedon. So all kinds of.
That's pretty cool. So it's like set in the universe and everything, official canon.
Yeah, totally. I think that's really cool when people can do that. Joss Whedon went on record saying that the Serenity kind of gave him like the closure he needed. Like with the way they left season 1, fully expecting to have 7 seasons, he was like, "Man, this is like it was like an itch, you know." And so when he got to make the movie Serenity, it he said that they like gave him closure for that. It also a lot of people speculate that was what propelled him into be able to direct the Avengers when it came out in what was that, like 2011 or something, because that was like the 2008 Serenity was the first time he was ever on the silver screen, or first time he was ever directing a movie for theaters. So I think that's pretty cool. Here's a little a sentiment that I don't know that I thought of while I was a few remarks, if you will. You know, like that saying, like all good things must come to an end.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know about you, but like whenever I heard that before, I was always like, I was attribute it to like it's like an entropy thing. Like you're saying that like nothing lasts forever, right? Like that's the meaning of that saying, is that anything good or bad isn't going to last just because the chaotic nature of our universe. But what I this kind of like, I don't know, I started to think about it differently as I was doing research into this project, where I started to think about like maybe what makes something good is it the end. Maybe it's not saying that everything has to end. It's saying that like all good things must come to an end. In order for something to be good, it has to end. So that's all I have.
All right. In that case, folks, that's the show. So, gonna go ahead and thank you, Glenn, for the intro music. The song is called Bird. It's on SoundCloud, which we have linked in the description.
Also linked are Matthew Inney and Natalie Quick. Matthew did our various logos, and Natalie did some great work on our covers. So thank you to them, and thank you to you for listening.
So we are on Apple Podcasts now. So if you want to go ahead and leave a review you can do it straight from the app. It really does help. And while you're at it, if you want to go ahead and send us an email, ask questions, what topics you want us to cover, we would like to build some interaction with the fans. So
rapport.
Let us know. Bicentennial Man. Glenn, Bicentennial Man.
What? Bicentennial
Man? That's it's Robin Williams. He has sex as a cyborg. That answers our question.
Oh, you're right. Glad we cleared that up.
It would have kept me up at night.
Honestly, yeah. Although thinking about cyborg sex might do that.